Marvelous Halloween, fiends and loathed ones! How are you today? That's right, it's Halloween time again. My favorite time of year. The time of pumpkins, the time of ghosts, the time of those little fun-sized Butterfingers that I guess really you can get any time of year. They're not specific to Halloween. And of course, the time of zombie-themed spin-off video games. So I think it's as good a time and as good a season as any to talk about Yakuza Dead Souls. In the years generally surrounding 2010, zombies were all the rage in video games. Established series like Resident Evil and Dead Rising were going strong, as well as plenty of new zombie-related IPs like Dead Island and Left 4 Dead. It really felt like a genuine zombie outbreak, and true to form, no one was safe. Because if that wasn't enough, there was also a brief trend of inserting zombies into established franchises that otherwise weren't known for having them. Red Dead Redemption? Zombies. Call of Duty? Zombies. The Oregon Trail? Oh, you better believe there were zombies. And one victim who got caught up in the brain-eating, foot-dragging epidemic was Sega's Yakuza series in 2011. So, at the time of making this video, I have to confess that I'm a pretty new fan to the Yakuza series. Prior to this game, I've only played Zero, the 2 Kiwamis, and Judgment if we're gonna count that. Yeah, I know Yakuza 3 and 4 Remastered are out right now, but I've already got my pre-order set up for that sweet physical release next February. The point is, my knowledge of the games surrounding this particular spin-off might be a bit lacking. So in Yakuza Dead Souls, you play as 4 different protagonists. The series mainstay, Kazuma Kiryu, everyone's favorite mad dog, Goro Majima, the Dragon of Kansai, Ryuji Goda, making his debut as a playable character, and Markiplier?
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, probably would have been pretty good if I'd played Yakuza 4. Luckily for me, the first time I booted the game up, I got to sit through 12 minutes of game data installing that was nice enough to clue me in on our characters. So I now know that this guy is Shun Akiyama, and he's a moneylender who owns the business Sky Finance. The plot of Yakuza Dead Souls is more or less your standard zombie film. It's business as usual for Akiyama, but then some random guy starts acting a little weird. Hey buddy, you okay? Oh man, zombies! Bang bang ba ba bang, sections of Kamurocho get walled off, and we eventually discover the entire outbreak was caused by some jerk who did it for a really dumb reason. And also this guy.
What's wrong with your face?
Each playable character has their own part consisting of 4 chapters, and in those 4 chapters there's a miniature story that relates specifically to each character, while also contributing to the overarching plot. The zombie-filled quarantine zone starts off pretty small when you're Akiyama, but by the end of the game, only a small area will be uninfected. Which is fine by me, because if I'm being honest, the not quarantine zone parts of Kamurocho are kind of dull. At least in the quarantine zone, there are pretty much always zombies to shoot while you run by, which generally keep things pretty engaging. And if you're worried about shops, don't be! Thanks to a scientist/lingerie model named Hasegawa that you meet pretty early in the game, she'll tell you about shops that you can save from zombie attacks, and once you do, it's totally business as usual for these establishments. There are literally ravenous flesh-eating monsters outside, and these people's bosses are still like, "You're coming in today, right?" Aside from your garden variety zombies, Dead Souls houses special mutated zombies with far more health and their own signature abilities. There are fat zombies, skinny zombies, zombies that live in rocks, tough zombies, sissy zombies, even these weird flying dudes that feel straight out of House of the Dead. These mutants are supposed to be your big challenges, but frankly the zombies that gave me the most trouble are these jerks with the endless supply of Molotov cocktails. Dead Souls also has these prototype mutants that typically act as boss fights, and for the most part they're okay. You fight these Resident Evil liquor wannabes and donkey wrongs that throw barrels at you more times than I personally think you should. I'd have rather just seen more variety, but some of these bosses are generally great fights, each with their own strategies. Rather than the traditional beat-em-up style gameplay of the mainline titles, Dead Souls focuses more on the shooty gun mechanics. And at best, they're simplistic, at worst, they're boring. You fire with the R1 button and use the left buttons for aiming. L1 is sort of a general lock-on that just keeps you facing towards enemies, with L2 going into an actual aim mode. The only frustrating part about this is that it stops you dead in your tracks, and unlike most other shooters, you don't control this aiming with the right stick, but rather the left stick. You know, the one that you usually use to walk. I'll confess this took me a while to get used to. I personally think this game's focus on guns is somewhat detrimental to it overall, and I think I'd have rather seen it focus on creative and inventive melee combat, with guns being more of a sub-weapon, similar to something like Dead Rising. There are items lying around that you can pick up and attack zombies with, and trust me, few things are more satisfying than picking up a motorcycle and killing a meathead in a single hit with it, but these items usually break so quickly, and most of them can't even take down regular zombies, that it is generally faster to just use the guns. So, look, replacing the beloved and established beat-em-up mechanics of the Yakuza series with the shooting mechanics of Dead Souls is kinda like if you took this chocolate chip cookie, but replaced all of the chocolate chips with raisins. I mean, look, it's still a perfectly good cookie. The cookie part is delicious, but raisins. Each character has a unique weapon that can sort of be categorized as their specialty weapon. Akiyama gets dual handguns, which do okay damage at an okay range, but suffer from a limited clip size, which is balanced out by having infinite ammo. Majima gets to use a shotgun, which is short range but insanely powerful, which is always nice. Gota's mechanical arm turns into a Gatling gun, and I wanted this to be so much more awesome than it actually is. The damage on this thing is pretty weak, and you'll burn through so much ammo using this thing that the game actually leaves crates of pity ammo lying around for you. I'd fill my inventory up with nothing but Gatling gun ammo, and still feel like I'm about to run out before the end of a mission. It does feel great firing off so many bullets so quickly into a crowd of zombies, but I wish it dealt just a little bit more damage. Lastly is Kiryu, who actually doesn't get his unique weapon until the last chapter of the game, but he gets an anti-material rifle that when properly upgraded is just... oh, it's great. Powerful, long range, and the bullets go straight through zombies, which make it awesome for crowd control. You are totally able to equip characters with other types of guns, but I personally preferred keeping each character with their unique weapons outside of a few specific instances. Besides, you can't give me a character with a gun arm and expect me to use a pea shooter. The actual story of Yakuza Dead Souls is pretty short, and if you just focused on the main story, you could probably just beat this game in an afternoon. But thankfully, like other Yakuza games, the true filling of this pie comes from sub-stories, mini-games, and all sorts of outside quests for you to do. Each character has 15 sub-stories, which are fun little side quests that really do flesh this game out and fill it with charm and hilarious situations. Just to name a couple of my favorite sub-stories, there's an ongoing series where 3 of the characters help out these filmmakers who blew their entire budget, but they realize they can use the zombie hordes to make a realistic horror film for cheap. Majima has a sub-story where he tries to lure out hiding zombies by using the well-known tactic that couples getting lovey-dovey always leads to a monster attack, except no girl will work with him, so he has to go with the 6th chairman himself. And Kiryu even works a case with long-running character Makoto Date. It's pronounced Date? Date! Where he helps solve a violent robbery case because even in the middle of a zombie outbreak, human beings can still be total jerks to each other. This actually leads me to one of my least favorite parts of the entire game, the chase sequences. See, every now and then a human will decide to do something crappy, but since we don't have traditional beat-em-up mechanics and we can't shoot humans, we have to just chase after them. Basically, this involves running around in circles and trying to get yourself in a position to tackle them multiple times to take them down. They aren't fun, but luckily there really aren't that many in the game. Also, there's one where you actually are chasing a zombie, and I'm like, why can't I just shoot you? Once you do all of a character's sub-stories, you'll unlock the ability to upgrade to their ultimate weapons, which you can only do by putting soul points you get from leveling up into your weapon proficiency. The level up system in this game is incredibly simplistic compared to other titles, but it works, giving players access to useful abilities like getting easier headshots or being able to carry more items. Doing these sub-stories with each character also unlocks different partners that can be brought into the quarantine zone with you to help you fight zombies. This is cool in theory, but I honestly found it easier to just go in alone. Their AI isn't great, they'll often get stuck on obstacles or trapped in a zombie horde and you have to rescue them, and if you're trying to get anywhere in a hurry, expect to hear a lot of chotomate. Thankfully, there's no friendly fire in this game, which makes the segments where you have to have a partner character all the more bearable. Another way to get partners is by hanging out in hostess clubs. There are 7 hostesses that can be recruited if you spend enough time with them and get them to like you enough, and naturally, I recruited all 7 of them, because why not? I will say though, it does feel a little weird to be doing some of these things in the middle of the story. A zombie outbreak? My friend is in danger? Time is of the essence? Don't worry, I'm on the way!
Kanpai?
Kanpai.
Kanpai!
I'll be there in a jiffy! Hold on! Just one more thing. Yeah, okay, I'm coming now. New to the Yakuza series are the underground missions. In the final chapter of each character's part, you'll meet up with this occult magazine dork named Kine, who sends you to explore a vast underground dungeon made up of multiple randomized floors. Think of this sorta like the Yakuza version of Tartarus or Mementos. Except it's a sewer, so there's probably a lot more poop. If you take the time to clear every character's sub-stories as well as their underground missions, you'll be granted the same challenge as all the other Yakuza games, a head-to-head fight against a member of the Amon clan. In Dead Souls' case, Rasetsu Amon, who died decades ago and has been brought back from our desecration of his death site in the underground. I found this particular Amon fight to be a bit easier than the ones from Kiwami or Zero, but it's still a great fight against your supernatural rival. And your reward for doing all of that and defeating Amon is a smartphone that connects to a satellite that summons a laser beam to destroy zombies from outer f***ing space. No ammo, no reloading, just boop that button and it's laser time. It's pretty awesome. This boss fight was probably supposed to be challenging, but not with space lasers. On one hand, it kinda feels like cheating, but on the other hand, I totally earned this. Just to make sure I got good footage though, I elected not to use it on the final boss fight, which is a giant... well, at least it's not a robot. I admit, I'd never heard a lot about Yakuza Dead Souls before playing it myself, and what I had heard didn't seem to be very positive. I thought the general opinion of this game was that it was a bland zombie title that totally lacked the Yakuza charm, but having played it for myself, I don't think that's the case at all. Sure, it relies on some zombie cliches, but trust me, the game is well aware of this fact, and is still filled with the characters and writing I've come to love from other entries in the series. For me personally, the real star of the show was Ryuji Goda. I know this game is non-canonical, but this really felt like his story, and it was great seeing so much more of this character in a new way. Even down to the final moments of the game, Goda stood out to me as one of the best parts of the plot. Second best was probably Majima, because he is just having the time of his life dealing with zombies. While everyone else is seeing this outbreak as a tragedy, Majima just sees it as his own personal playground, and what can I say, his excitement is just infectious. The only major complaints I have are with some of the controls. Like I said, shooting is not this game's bread and butter, despite it being the main combat mechanic. I'd also like to point out the game does suffer from a bit of slowdown. Like, I've never been someone who can look at a video and tell you if it's running at 60 frames per second, or if a game does manage to stay locked at 30 frames per second, but even I can tell this game does have several instances of frame drops. Particularly whenever the hermits are involved, or you've got too much trying to happen at once. I think the worst was this boss fight towards the end of the game, where the frames dropped to like, I don't know, 4? But those complaints are pretty minor in the long run. Overall, I liked Yakuza Dead Souls way more than I thought I would, and I'm taking it as an instance of not judging a game just based on what people online are saying about it. If you're a fan of the series, or just of wacky zombie stories, I'm gonna give Yakuza Dead Souls my recommendation. Yakuza 4 Remastered just dropped on the PSN store today, so maybe once you finish up with that, grab yourself a copy of Dead Souls, it's pretty cheap these days, and give it a go for yourself. I had a great time with Yakuza Dead Souls, and it really put me in the Halloween spirit. So, this Halloween, grab yourself one of those fun-sized Butterfingers, watch a spooky movie, play a spooky game, and just have yourself a fantastic holiday. And until next time, sayonara.